Well, I got a real good treat for everybody here in the audience. Jason Longshore from Soccer Down Here. This is a company that ASMG now is going to be collaborating with, and that's the reason for this pod here. So, first of all, I wanted to kind of introduce you. Most people in the audience will know who you are, but for those who may not know as much about your background and everything, could you kind of let us know a little bit about yourself, Jason?
Yeah, born and raised in the Atlanta area. Fell in love with the game in 1986 with Diego Maradona in Argentina at the World Cup, and that was a time frame where we didn't have pro soccer in Atlanta. We didn't have much soccer in Atlanta. So I was scrapping and clawing and trying to find places to play and trying to learn about the game. When I was in college, I worked for the Atlanta Ruckus in 97 and 98. Started writing for internet sites about the A League at that time. Followed MLS in the early days of the league, even way before we had a team here in Atlanta. I worked for soccer in the streets for a decade, growing the game at the like ultra grassroots level and trying to provide access for kids to get more opportunities to play. And in 2017, we started Soccer Down Here as a daily podcast covering initially Atlanta United's first season, that was kind of the idea, but really fast because of the experience that I've had covering the grassroots game and being involved in it. And we had been involved with the Atlanta Silverbacks and the reserves for the Silverbacks and trying to, again, just increase access to the game at all levels. We figured out really fast that Soccer Down Here had a bigger story to tell. Now we're a media network. We have video, audio, written, newsletter. We cover the game at all levels, from local high school to World Cup playoffs, and we cover all of it with our Atlanta lens of who we are and what we see here locally, and we try to always provide context. Like, our goal is not to throw out a hot take, to embrace debate. Like, that's not where we are. That's not our job. That's not our lane. I think our job in the soccer conversation is to provide background, to provide context, to explain the how and the why, and try to fill in the gaps of kind of where things are when we talk about this game.
Oh man, and just listening to you talk about kind of the start that you had with the Ruckus and the A League. I remember even I think I met you when you had a team in the ADSL here
Yeah.
in the Atlanta area. I think it was the Estudiantes, I believe, that you had.
Estudiantes with soccer in the streets down in College
Yeah,
Park in East Point. Yeah.
yeah, soccer in the streets. And I mean, and just looking back on that just brings up a lot of memories for myself because, at the same time, like you say, the game has transformed over the years. We didn't have a pro league at that time, and so, but there was a lot of talent. And, even at that time, I noticed that you saw a lot of the same things I saw, that this was a valuable level that we have to develop if we're going to have that pro league that's going to have the sort of pathway from the academy youth age on up to the professionals. And so that's always impressed me. And we've done some work together in the past, but what I'm excited about now is that we're kind of formalizing that collaboration, something that we I think recognize is necessary in order to really help, I guess, widen the exposure
Yep.
of what's going on here, and also pointing to the importance of this level. Can you kind of go into a little bit of why that's so important at this level? Because a lot of people like to they look at the MLS and say, "Hey, this is the important thing. This is where you need to have your attention." But why, conversely, is it also important to have that type of attention to the sort of the quote unquote lower leagues?
Yeah, it's all important. I mean, I think it's not about one being important and one not being important. Does the importance levels change with different competitions and different times a year? Sure. I mean, right now, we're really locked into what's happening with World Cup playoffs and those games, and that's kind of driving the conversation. But there's room for everything. And that's what I think frustrates me at times, because it's very easy to get siloed. And whatever silo you want to fall in, whether it's MLS, whether it's purely lower divisions, whether it's the women's game, whether it's the college game, there's an easy ability to just put on the blinders and focus on one thing. I love the interconnectivity of the game. I love when an Atlanta United player starts to shine with their UPSL team and then moves up the ladder. And we've seen that at a variety of different levels. Dominic Chonqui is one that I think of that I remember seeing in UPSL matches and saying he's got something. He could move up the ladder here. And then he goes to next pro and then he goes to the MLS side. I love seeing that. I love seeing players come back. I love seeing a player like Karim Tamimi, who has had a really nice pro career with Atlanta United too. And now he's coaching and involved with Kalanji Pro Profile and playing and doing great in this league. I love that you have all these stories because ultimately, I think why you and I are connected in this game is because of all the stories. Seeing players get the opportunity to live out their dreams on a soccer pitch, getting these clubs, especially as UPSL is growing across the state of Georgia in different communities. We focus on the Atlanta area, obviously, because that's where we are, but there's great things happening in Dalton and Gainesville and other parts of the state. LaGrange, we're seeing the growth in UPSL statewide, and there's so much more room to grow. So for me, it's exciting because Atlanta United can't play every day and be everywhere. As big as it can be, and it's big, it can't be everywhere all the time. So the game grows because of the grassroots, and the grassroots are successful because of the top end as well. And I think at times we get competitive, one or the other, and it's not, it's both. It's all connected, and the growth and success of one side should help the other side. And that's the connections that we try to make with SDH.
Yeah, that connectivity is so important, and like you
Yeah.
say, I think sometimes the thought process is that, okay, this is my league over here, and that
Right.
league over there is the enemy. We need to compete with that league. But as ASMG is done, I mean, now I'm a conference manager in the UPSL, so obviously I'm going to have a lot of to do with the
Yeah.
UPSL. But ASMG has contracts with two different USL teams
Hmm.
here in the area. I've worked with Atlanta United with their academy, and with you as well with the
Yep.
academy,
Yep.
with broadcasts and things. I see it all interconnected because what's very important is providing that pathway for those youngsters. And if we start to cut off and say, hey, you're only going to be good in this league, don't worry about that other league, then you're retarding the potential for those players, I think. And
Yeah.
so that's why I'm very excited about, as far as media coverage, this collaboration that we're going to have, because I can bring something from the UPSL to what you're already doing in the wider area for the lower league, as well as going on to the pro levels. And so, with this collaboration, can you kind of explain from your point of view what that means going forward from this point forward?
Yeah, I think it's on a lot of different levels. I mean, content sharing from ASMG to SDH and back and forth is a huge part of it. For our audience who, might be more geared, they might find me because of doing Atlanta United radio, that they might, find us because of our morning espresso newsletter that covers the game worldwide. It's cool for me to be able to include with those folks like, hey, this is happening in your backyard, and look, you might not be able to get out every week, but you might want to go see this big playoff game that's coming up that we tell you about. Those sorts of things, and being able to just plant those seeds. So that's one side on content share that I think is big. We're creating a pretty large audience from our high school coverage that has grown really well across the state of Georgia. I think there's a lot of natural crossover with a lot of those players that end up playing in UPSL Georgia at the various levels. So that's one. I think logistical partnerships as well and sharing. I mean, between myself, between John Nelson, between Madison Cruz, Nick Alifi, we have commentators that are going to be heard on UPSL broadcasts that we can help, lend a hand and be there for those and help with that. I think partnerships that we've helped create locally when the college games that we all call, with local college programs that are working to produce those games internally. Well, it's a great opportunity for some of those folks, whether they're commentators, whether they're camera operators, to get experience at this level. And the UPSL, I think, is a great proving ground for clubs, but for people as well, not just players, for coaches, for people like us who are involved in the game. And I think both of us take it really seriously that the game has given us so much. It's incumbent on us to give back. We have to lend a helping hand to that next generation coming up who need experience, need mentorship, need opportunity. And I think that's the biggest aspect of this. There's also the opportunity for us to grow both sides of it and take this to another level. I think Georgia's really setting a pretty high standard for the UPSL, and there's still room to grow. And I think we can work together to take it even further and make this the best league inside UPSL, the best region, the best competition, the best broadcast, and shine a light on this level that is the entry point for so many people into the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. I think the sky's the limit, and I do have those types of goals for the Georgia Conference and the Southeast in general.
Yeah.
We're starting to do things outside of the Georgia Conference as well here in the UPSL. But we mentioned a lot previously about the players, the opportunities it gives to them, and in turn the coaches and staff at this level. But you mentioned something very interesting as far as on the media side. That's also an area where those who might want to get into the game on this side of the ball,
Mm-hmm.
we can provide that platform to start. Hey, let's start doing some UPSL games. We can learn the craft, commentary, camera operator, engineer, red hat, all these different
Yeah.
types of positions that they can start with the UPSL, and then they get an opportunity to go, hey, we go on to the next. I mean, like Massimo Balou,
Yes.
does UPSL games, works for SDH as well, can go on to the next level. Who knows? These guys go on to Fox and Sky Sports and all these
Yeah.
other areas. So it's pro development for everybody from this level on, and that's what excites me about not only this league, but also what we're doing together now as a collaboration. So the very next steps is, we're announcing this collaboration now. And so what do you want to, just as a last question, what do you ultimately want to accomplish with this collaboration that we're doing now?
I think just increasing access across the board for all aspects of this. Like you mentioned, broadcasters. It's really hard to get experience when you're trying to break into the industry. This is a great opportunity to do it, and luckily in our network, we've got people. I've called every Atlanta United game on radio since the team started in 2017. John
Mm.
Nelson's worked with Georgia Public Broadcasting for 2+ decades. Madison Cruz is a rising star in the industry, and you've heard her on Atlanta United broadcasts as well. So we've got people that not just you can get to do the game, but we've got people that can provide feedback and help as you're figuring out who you are on a microphone. And that's a huge element of this. Same with camera operators. You guys have done so many games and been so involved from an engineer, from a producer, from a camera operator standpoint. You guys can provide that feedback of do this next time, upgrade this, let's work towards this. It's not just experience, it's access to the education of how to do this. And I think big picture for the game, if UPSL Georgia is successful and thriving and adds another division because the interest is there and is in more communities around the state, then that means the high school programs are going to be better. That means the college programs are going to be better. That means the professional programs in the state are going to be better. And that means that Atlanta and Georgia is going to be the center of soccer in the United States. And that's what I think we have to focus on is it's not just Atlanta United or when the national team is here or NWSL that will make Atlanta that epicenter for soccer in the United States or in North America. It's every level. So if we can raise this level and keep growing it from every aspect, media, broadcast, quality of broadcast, player quality, coach quality, all of that, and we increase that access to that, sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean that's what's so very exciting about this and what we're doing together now. The opportunities it gives across the board, and not, I mean, we talk about players and media people, but the fans get the benefit also
Yep.
by high quality in what we're doing. And so I'm looking forward to developing this partnership that we're trying to do, but for the good of the game. And
Yep.
so I want to thank you for taking time out to discuss this sort of in my mind, most exciting kind of collaboration that I've done since I've been in the game because I think I see the potential and what it could mean for the game in this region. So I want to thank you for taking time out there and also
Yeah.
considering this collaboration with us here at ASMG.
Partnerships and collaborations are the key to this. None of us are going to win on our own. We all have to work together to grow the game. And it's always good to find like minded people that get that and want to work in that and grow everything.
All right. Well, Jason, I look forward to this is just the beginning. I look forward to
Yep.
working with you going forward. And for those out in the audience, keep an eye out on the social media for this announcement and watch us grow and help support what we're doing to help the game here in the Southeast area of the United States.